Selamat pagi kawan-kawan saya. My Indian odyssey is over. And if you've been watching these videos, then you know that over the past 8 weeks, I visited 4 cities in India. India is a huge place, so I can't visit one place or even 4 and claim to know very much about the country. Plus, the places I visited were mostly in the south. What I want to do in this video is renew my trip so far, including the Indian cities, and talk about some of the details of my travels in that country. And I think I'm going to do this from the KL Botanical Gardens, or Park, or whatever it's called. So if you're interested, let's go. Right now I'm at Museum Nagar, which means National Museum, for all of you non-Malay speakers. But there's no signs for the Botanical Garden, although I know it's here. I even looked it up. Yeah, beforehand. I know, it's a shock. So when I find it, we'll start the video. I had a little bit of trouble finding the place. I stopped 2 people and asked them if they knew where the Taman Perdana Botanical was, meaning with the Botanical Gardens. And they looked at me with a puzzled look, and they said in perfect English, "Oh, you mean the bird park?" It's not easy being me. I think you know my feelings about bird parks. How I'd rather stick pins in my eyes before I'd go to a bird park. But anyway, it helped me zero in on the Botanical Garden, where I am now. Like I said, I spent 2 months in India and visited 4 cities. I left Colombo on June 17th and flew to Chennai, which is on the southern coast. Some of you might remember that Chennai used to be called Madras. I was there for 2 weeks originally. Then I took a train from there to Pondicherry or Puducherry, depending on which name you use. I think Puducherry is the more recent name. And I was there for almost 2 weeks, or maybe 10 days, I can't remember. Then I took a train back to Chennai for a while. I think I was there for another week. And then another train from Chennai to Bengaluru, also known sometimes as Bangalore. And then from Bangalore, 2 weeks later, I flew from there to Mumbai on the west coast of the country. So the 4 places that I've been, I list the hotels in the description below. I found Mumbai to be the most interesting and Bangalore to be the most fun. I really enjoyed wandering around Bangalore, but Mumbai, no matter where I went, there was something to see or do. And if I do go back to India, I'll probably visit one of those 2 cities, given the time, because I have other plans for India, which we'll get to at the end of the video. Just like Sri Lanka, the Indian currency is referred to as a rupee. Of course, since it's a different country, it has a different value. When I was there, it was worth about 82 rupees to $1 US. I also found that my ATM card from the United States worked just as well in 3 of the cities in India as it does back in the United States. In other words, it worked without any problems. So ATM usage, no trouble. As far as credit card use goes, I really didn't use it that much in person in India. I bought most of the things that I needed online, like rail tickets, air tickets, and hotel reservations. Anything I bought there, like groceries or food or snacks or something like that, I would pay for in cash. So very little to report on the credit card front. Getting around India, like I said, I used Air India, which is a wonderful airline. I had no trouble finding reservations, paying for it online. Their website works fine. Their check-in and everything else at their airports that I used worked fine. There is, however, intense security at Indian airports. You might remember that a lot of airports require you to take large electronics out of your bag when you go through security. In India, you take all electronics out of your bag. Wires, cables, batteries, computers, cameras, you name it. They come out of your bag. So naturally, the security lines are a little bit slower in India than they might be in some other places. I guess that's relative. They're slower in relation to places that I've been. I'm sure there are airports around the world that are much slower, but this was an eye-opener for me. I did the usual computer, big camera out of the bag, but found out that as I was going through the line, that everything had to come out of the bag. So be prepared for that. Everything you've seen about Indian train stations on TV is true. They're crowded, they're somewhat chaotic, but they mask a relatively nice experience riding the trains. There is a learning curve, however, to using the website to book a ticket. It's very confusing. It took me a while to figure out how to get a ticket on Indian Rail. My first train was from Chennai to Puducherry. It's only a 3-hour trip. And at the Indian Rail site, it was very difficult to pick the kind of seat I wanted because there was no legend as what the letter abbreviations meant. I eventually found out that there were no chair seats available, so I ended up booking a sleeper. For a 3-hour train ride, a sleeper is kind of silly, but c'est la vie. But once I got on board, it was a great ride. I mean, the sleeper was nice. You could sit in it if you wanted to, or you could go to sleep. The reason the sleepers were there is because the train I booked had started its journey, I think 2 days before, in a city called Hyderabad. And it wasn't going to finish the journey until either Puducherry or soon after. So a lot of the people that were in the sleeping car that I booked had been on the train for 2.5 days by the time I joined them. It was a long ride for them. For me, it was just a short jaunt. But after that, I learned how to book chair seats, and they do have, I guess, a class of trains that are limited to trips of 700 kilometers or less. So all the available reservations are for chairs, which makes sense. My reservation from Chennai to Bengaluru was a 5-hour ride, and it was perfectly comfortable. If I have any advice for making rail reservations, it is to play around with the site until you get used to what it's showing you. It's not an intuitive site. It takes a little bit of learning curve to it to understand what it's showing you. So don't think that just because you can't find what you think you should be able to find, that it isn't there. It probably is. You're just not clicking the right boxes and making the right choices in the drop downs to get to what you want. Once I got used to how the website worked, though, everything was easy. I booked one ticket, the first one, from Chennai to Puducherry, and then 2 weeks later I needed another ticket to get back to Chennai, so the booking of that one went very easy. I did not get a sleeper that time. I knew what to look for and how to look for it so I could get a chair seat. Booking from Chennai to Bengaluru was equally easy. I knew how the site worked and what I wanted to get, the kind of train I wanted to reserve on. So that thing took me like 5 minutes to get my ticket for that particular trip. But the first time, there's a learning curve. As a US citizen, I did need a visa for India, and I bought it at iVisa, which I assume is ivisa.com, but it's online. Just search for iVisa and it'll pop up. It cost me $114 US, and it was valid for 1 year. And within that 1 year period, I could stay in India for a total of 180 days. Your visa may vary depending on which one you purchase and what country you're from. Some of you may not even need a visa. There is one thing I don't like about these online visa services, is that they never tell you what the final price is until you're ready to check out. They'll tell you what the country charges for the visa, which I think in the case of India was something like $45. And then when I went to check out, the total price was $114. Now they have to get business somehow, and that's how they do it. To process your visa, they charge a fee for doing it for you. The problem I have is that they should tell you that up front. What will the fee be? If I choose a one-year Indian visa, how much is it going to cost me? But they don't do that until the very end. And you think, well, maybe I'll just click away and try another service. I've tried 3 services and they all do the same thing. Their prices may vary a little bit, but not by much. When I filled out the visa online, eventually you'll get an attachment from iVisa once it's approved by the Indian government. And you just keep that with you. It's on your phone. They may ask to see it, they may not. Since it's an online visa, and since the government already has to look at all your details before they approve it, you would imagine that they have some kind of a record tying that visa to your passport number. And to be honest with you, I can't remember whether or not I had to show the visa when I went through Indian immigration or not. But I did have it. They do not ask for a paper copy. If I had to show the PDF, then I showed it on my phone. I'm back on the MRT now. And that was a beautiful park. In all the time I've lived here in Kuala Lumpur, I've never been to that park. But if you like to walk or run or whatever, it's a nice place to go. It's fairly quiet, and if you get there in the morning, it's probably pretty cool. Back to the Al Rizwan. So that's my review of my Indian adventure. Will I be back? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will. I still have this inexplicable desire to visit a place called Darjeeling near the Himalayas. It's also in a state, I think, called West Bengal, but we'll see what happens. That's going to have to wait until next year. So from the Al Rizwan in beautiful downtown Kuala Lumpur, my favorite eatery, by the way, in the city, I say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.